I've been an artist for over 3 years now. I've faced chronic body pains for the exact same amount of time. So are the two related? Is chronic pain solvable? And if it's solvable, then what's the road to recovery? In the last 3 years, I've met doctors, physiotherapists, and most recently an orthopedic surgeon. I'm distilling down all of the knowledge that I gained from all of these different sessions so that it might help one of you in your journey. In this video, I'm going to tell you every single thing that I did to manage and cope with my body aches. When I spoke about my chronic neck and shoulder aches on social media, a lot of other artists also replied, sharing similar struggles with me. So I realized I wasn't alone on this path. So why exactly does this happen and what can we do about it? Before we go any further, I want to tell you that I am not a doctor and I'm not from any kind of medical background. I'm just sharing my own experiences. Your problems might be different from mine, so make sure that you consult with professionals as well. I'm discussing this because I think that it's a really important topic that needs to be addressed, especially for artists. As an artist, I searched on YouTube for other people facing similar struggles and I found little to no information. So I decided that I must make this video so that it might help somebody else. Whether or not you're at a stage in your journey where you are already experiencing such pains, stick around and watch this video because a lot of what I'm going to share can help prevent ever ending up in such trouble. So the year I seriously started painting regularly was also the year of the pandemic. And at that time, I didn't really have any desk at home or anything where I would paint. So I would kind of just sit down on the floor, hunch over, and just completely be leaning onto the floor and painting. And that was clearly very bad posture. And in hindsight, I wish I didn't do that to my body, but I did, and here we are. A few months of living like that, and I started feeling slight soreness in my neck and shoulder region. So particularly, I would feel it at the base of my skull. There would be like a sharp pain there sometimes, especially towards the end of the day. But most often, I would feel this kind of soreness and tiredness across both of my shoulders. Some days it would be kind of painful, but most days it would just feel like this discomfort or this kind of muscle fatigue that was quite intense. Initially, I could just ignore those aches and kind of continue working, but again, I don't think that was a great idea. I think changes needed to be made immediately, which is exactly why I'm sharing all of my experiences with you so that you can take the right decisions for yourself. Now, I think when it comes to being an artist, this is of course an occupational hazard. A lot of times we are hunching over, especially if you, like me, like to paint more detailed work and if you work on paper instead of canvas. When you're working with canvas, you could use an easel of some sort, but when you're working with paper, it gets a little bit more complicated. That being said, of course, there are things that you can immediately change about your lifestyle and about your work environment that can make things a lot easier. So these are all of the things that I did to improve my own situation. The first thing is prioritizing rest. This is the first thing that I'm discussing because it was actually one of the things that was really hard for me. I'm somebody who's a bit of a workaholic and I need to constantly feel like I'm being productive, or it leaves me with a not so nice feeling of dread, and I just feel like I'm wasting my time if I'm not doing something that's contributing to my goals in some way, be that personal or professional. But my situation with my chronic pain had improved for a while, and then mid this year, I ended up doing a lot of work and I ended up painting a lot. I was also exploring acrylic paints, which you might have already seen on the channel. And after a spell of 2-3 months of really intense work, my body was just completely burnt out from it. It was unable to take it anymore. And I think I pushed myself beyond what I should have. And that entire burst of work led to my body just deteriorating over the last 2 or 3 months, which is why I've been absent from my channel as well. So during that time, I really felt a need to listen to my body and to prioritize rest and lie down if I need to. Even if I'm in the middle of a project, if my body demands it, I really need to be able to step away and do that, because otherwise things are just going to get worse. And the way I kind of just rewired my thinking around rest is to stop looking at goals in the short term and rather look at like a 5-year picture. So when I think about the 5-year picture, resting for an hour doesn't sound so bad, because I feel like if I do that, I'm contributing to my goals 5 years from now, because I'm going to be able to lead a more sustainable work life rather than putting my body through hell and ending up in a position where I'm not going to be able to do anything beyond a point. And I really don't want that. So rewiring my thinking in that way really helped with putting things in perspective. So keeping all of that in mind, I put my YouTube channel on hold for a few months, which was again really hard for me, because I just feel this need, once I've committed to something, to continue doing it regardless of how I'm feeling. But I decided that I needed that time off. So I stopped creating much content, be it on Instagram or on YouTube. I put a few other projects on hold, like my next upcoming Skillshare class. I already shot it, but I stopped it in the edit phase and said I'd get to it once I was feeling better. And I also learned to say no. And I think learning to say no and delaying a few launches, realizing that it's not the end of the world if I did that, really helped me prioritize rest over the last few months. The next thing I did was seek professional help. Even 3 years ago, when these body aches had just about started for me, I immediately met with a physiotherapist, and that helped me correct a few things about my posture and my work environment very early. I'll discuss that in more detail in the next section about posture correction. So I first met physiotherapists, and I actually have met 3 physiotherapists at this point. I think it also takes a little bit of trial and error for you to find the right fit for yourself, somebody who understands you and somebody who you're comfortable working with. So I recommend starting that process as soon as possible. The physiotherapist probably would give you some stretches to work on, which of course are really helpful. But what I realized was that what the physiotherapist recommended to me, which was a lot of stretches and rest, that was not solving the problem. It was not enough for me. So there was clearly something more deep-rooted that I needed to address. So recently I went and met an orthopedic surgeon, and I think that was one of the best decisions I made in this entire issue. After meeting the ortho and taking an x-ray, I was diagnosed with cervical spondylosis, which is the base of my neck. Basically, the spine there has degraded, the discs have degraded, and it's not a great situation, but I'm just happy that I finally know about it, and I know that I need to work on it, and I know exactly what I need to do to work on it. Until now, I have been living in a space of not knowing, and being a planner by nature, that's been really hard for me, because things have been very unpredictable, and I've found that really difficult to deal with. Now that I know exactly what the issue is, I'm glad that I at least have a plan of action and I know what I need to do to improve my condition. Then there's exercise, of course. My condition last year improved a lot ever since I started exercising. Once I started working out my upper body, I could immediately feel a change. And for about 6 to 9 months of exercise, I felt a clear improvement in the body aches I was feeling. I was no longer sore every single evening, but I was also working with a trainer remotely. And now the change that I'm going to make is that I'm going to work with somebody in person so that my form is also being checked. It's possible that I made a few mistakes while I was working out, which is also one of the reasons why this pain has suddenly resurfaced in the last few months. So I'm going to make that change. I'm going to make sure I work with an in-person trainer and get my form perfected, because that's really important when you're exercising. When it comes to medication, if you're taking anything for pain relief, I would strongly urge you to consult a professional and not self-medicate, because like me, you may not know the root cause of the problem and what is leading to all of these pains. It's always better to treat the cause rather than just treating the symptoms. That's just going to give you some temporary relief. And if you are numbing out your pain and your body is not feeling that pain, you may cause yourself more harm by treating your body in a way that it's not supposed to be treated in, just because you've numbed out the pain response. So make sure you're not doing that. I would strongly urge you to consult a professional based on what your condition is, how severe or how light it is. Just make sure you're talking to the right people and getting the right diagnosis and the right help. Now, when it comes to posture correction, there are a few simple things that you can do right away to improve the way in which you're working. The first one is, like I mentioned, if you are an artist who works on larger canvases, then you should work on an easel. I assume you already do. But if the art that you create allows you to work on an easel, then please do that. That's much better for your back and for your neck than it is to work on a desk. If you're painting on a desk, you could also use something like a desk easel. I do understand that a desk easel works well in certain types of work, and sometimes it just doesn't work well at all when I'm doing very detailed work, or when I'm painting at the bottom of a sheet of paper. Then I find it really hard to work on the desk easel. In such a case, I just prefer to keep it on my desk and move it forward so that my arm is well rested on the table. And that's the next point. When you're working, even on your laptop, try to push it as far back as you can and rest your entire arm on the table and then type. And your arm also needs to be at a perfect 90-degree angle, not how mine is right now. Ideally, your seat should be more lifted up and your arm should be at a 90-degree angle, completely rested on your desk, so that you're not putting any kind of awkward pressure on this joint here. And when you're doing work on a system, then instead of working on your laptop and bending your neck downwards to look at it, it would be best if you could use a larger monitor and raise that up to eye level. I've been working that way for 2 years now, and I highly recommend it. It's helped me a lot. So I always prefer to use the second display, which is my monitor. I hook my laptop up to it, and then I just push all my windows onto the monitor so that when I'm reading, I'm looking at it at eye level. And then, like I said, I'm typing on my laptop, but with my arm well rested on the desk and at a 90-degree angle. When I'm reading on my Kindle these days, I like to use this Kindle stand that I have. Again, just to raise it up slightly closer to eye level. Just keep that as a general rule when you're using any kind of tech device. As far as possible, try to lift it up to eye level. Nowadays, even when I'm reading a physical book, I try to lift it up, and instead of bending my neck down to read, I like to just kind of lower my eyes and read that way. As far as possible, just try to keep your neck a little bit more straight. I know all of these sound like a lot of complicated rules, but it's just a matter of bringing them into practice, and then it just becomes automatic. When it comes to lifestyle changes, there are a few simple things you can do. When you're working on your laptop or anything, just try to work in 30-minute sprints and then give yourself a break of a few minutes. In that break, you could also take some time to just stretch out your neck and your shoulders. Simple stretches like moving your neck over to the side, moving it up and down can be really helpful. And there are a lot of YouTube videos on these kind of stretches as well, which you can take inspiration from. But mainly just stop working after 30 minutes and just give yourself a short break, because just looking at a screen constantly, you are usually tightening up your muscles without even realizing it, and that's not great. Another thing that helps me is to spend time outdoors whenever possible. I didn't realize this until recently when I went on a trip to the hills nearby, and I realized that just by taking daily walks in nature, which unfortunately I don't have access to in the city, but those daily walks just give my body a lot of relief. Firstly, of course, they're mentally very relaxing. But the second thing is, once you step out, and even if you're just meeting people or going to a store, for example, it's very different from when we're sitting at home or in our studios glued to some kind of tech device. All of these tech devices have a tendency of making us bend our neck down for long periods of time. Whereas the moment you step out, you'll realize that you're just automatically keeping your neck straight most of the time. When you're talking to somebody in front of you, your neck is usually just straight and you're just looking straight at that person and talking. Or when you're going for a walk, you're looking around at things at eye level. You're not going to be bending your neck as much. And then there's the mental relaxation aspect, both put together, that just give you a lot of relief in your body. And when you're doing activities that involve reading or writing, try to do it for 15-minute bursts, not even 30 minutes. Do it for 15 minutes, give yourself a break, and then you can continue. And don't do too much of it, especially if you're already feeling this kind of tightness in your body. Apply the same 30-minute rule even when you're painting. The most important thing is that you really need to strengthen your upper body muscles across your entire neck, shoulder region, so that you're putting less pressure on your bones, on your spine. A lot of what I'm talking about has to do with shoulder and neck pain, because that's what I face. If you face a lot more lower back pain than neck and shoulder pain, then there's a video by this artist called Adam Duff that I'd recommend checking out. I'll link to it in the description. The next thing is mindset. I think this was another thing that was a little difficult for me to reach a point where I was in the right mindset for healing my body and just accepting what I was going through. And I think that was really difficult for me. I'm getting a little emotional even talking about it, but I went through a few months where I was just feeling really dejected, and I was just feeling like nothing was going the way that I wanted it to go. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I had to push a few launches, and while I can talk about it now, I feel proud of myself for doing all of it, and proud of myself for making those decisions at that time. But when I actually had to make those decisions, it was really hard for me because, like I said, I'm somebody who just needs to get things done. I'm somebody who needs to keep working on things, and that's what gives me a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment, and I absolutely love the work that I do. So coming to terms with what my body was going through was really hard for me, and most recently when I got my diagnosis, that was really hard as well. So I completely understand how sometimes it can make you feel like you can't do the things you want to do anymore. But you really do need to believe that that is not true. You can and will do all the things that you want to do. It's probably only a matter of time. You need to take the steps in the right direction. And when you do that, you'll start feeling better in every sense. And you'll reach a point where you will feel like you can overcome it. But for you to reach that point, you need to believe that that's going to happen, and that's extremely, extremely important. Work on cultivating the right mindset and surround yourself with encouraging people who are going to help you get there. I think that's another thing that's been instrumental in my entire journey. Despite all of these things that I was going through, I did put a pause on certain things, but at the same time, I did accomplish a lot as well. I managed to create a Diwali packaging design for a client. I managed to design and launch my 2024 desk calendars, the link of which is in the description if you'd like to check that out. I'm so happy with how they turned out, and again, so proud of myself for just getting that done and allowing myself to get that done. And I've also had a wonderful team working in the background, making sure my blogs went live and my Pinterest posts went live. So all of that has still been happening despite me feeling like I'm not doing anything. And all of that has been possible because I just kept trying to push myself into a mindset of, no, I'm going to heal and it's going to get better. And that has helped so much. Today, I picked up my paintbrush and I painted a bird after a really long time, and I'm so happy that I did that. I'm also shooting this video after a really long time. And honestly, at this moment in time, I am not feeling any aches. There is always like a very mild discomfort, which I'm feeling right now in my right arm. But aside from that, I'm not feeling too bad. And Talking to the camera is also like talking at eye level, so it's not putting so much strain on my shoulder, which is great. But yeah, I think it's been important to just slow down, but also realize that it's just temporary and I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to do. So for you, that maybe you want to work in a slow way, maybe you want to work at a medium pace, fast pace, whatever it is, just know that you're going to get to wherever you want to go, and anything that's happening in your body is just like a minor hiccup, and it doesn't have to control your life. Because of these aches that resurfaced over the last few months, I've been feeling not so great, both physically and mentally, but I'm finally coming back to a place where I'm able to paint again and I'm able to do the things that I enjoy. So I realized that I haven't even posted a video ever since I crossed the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I really wanted to celebrate that. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for watching my videos and for bringing my channel to this point. I hope that you continue to enjoy my videos. As usual, be sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of my future videos. The best way to stay in touch with me and to be updated on my studio, my art and my body issues as well is by signing up for my newsletter. So the link to that is in the description. Please leave a comment letting me know if you have faced any chronic body aches and what you did about it. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.